Hello, Designer Series. We're live from San Diego with breaking news. My name is Ron Burgundy. We are possibly going to experiencing a fire alarm, and that is a little serious, and that's the fun of a live production here. It was supposed to come at 9:30, then 10. So if you see alarms and strobes start to go off, we're gonna be just okay. But in all seriousness, I'm Joe Roner. I'm the Track 2 lead for Detective Bot, and I'm really excited to be here today with you. Today's panel will explore how the government uses crowdsourcing to harvest new ideas and solutions. Whether a hackathon, design thinking event, or capture the flag event, the government's finding fun ways to engage technologists and technology companies to accelerate innovation. Our panel will dive into the experience of two government pros who have walked the walk. For those of you that have been watching the panel thinking, I want to do this, listen up, because this is your chance to look under the hood and understand how these events come together. I'm excited to be joined today by Mike Baum. You've seen him throughout the week, and Captain Cintron. As a reminder, we're using Slido to take Q&A live from the audience, so get those questions in. To get this started, we'll get started with an easy question. So Mike, Louis, can you please tell us where you work and your title? And Louis, I'll throw it to you first since you're virtual.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity of having me here this morning, or this afternoon in the East Coast, morning for you all on the West Coast. First of all, thanks for everything. And then I'm a computer engineer at the Air Force, supporting previously the Joint AI Center, Department of Defense, basically a Center of Excellence for Artificial Intelligence. And we've done a number of efforts here and basically helping accelerate the state of artificial intelligence within the department across a number of missions. One of the missions that I've been supporting for about 3 years now has been that of cyber, including information warfare, information operations, and similar activities. And in order to basically be successful in this mission, we've had to partner up with industry, with academia, through events like this, conducting rapid prototyping, reaching out to experts outside of the department to come up with solutions to complex problems with mindsets that basically bring a different perspective to what we're used here to solve these tough challenges. We've had some great partnerships across the cyber community with Cyber Command, DISA, and others, and been able to fulfill a lot of great things in support of those operations, identifying things such as what this event is trying to accomplish with this track 2 of malware detection, right? So that's still a very, very tough problem, and we continue to partner up with a number of organizations to get solutions to this type of problems.
That's awesome, and we're so excited to have you. It's great to get a Department of Defense perspective, someone from the JAIC, the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, to join us. You've got a great perspective. We can't wait to hear about it. Now, Mike, I know people have seen you throughout the week, but in case this is their first time seeing you, can you give us your title and where you work?
Yeah, sure thing, Joe. Yeah, so Mike Baum, I'm the PMW 130, which is the Navy Cybersecurity Program Office Technical Director for AI Machine Learning. Really excited to be here, so thanks, Joe, for inviting me to the panel. And a little bit of background on what we've done. So as you saw earlier today, we awarded a prize amount for one of the artificial intelligence applications to autonomous cybersecurity, or AI attack prize challenges. So we've executed 3 of those to date. And really that whole series just focuses on evaluating next-gen cyber AI tools. So thanks, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate it.
That's awesome. All right, so let's start to get the questions a little deeper here, guys. So let's set the table for the audience on why you're both participating. You guys started to hit on it in your intros, but let's go a little deeper. Louis, can you share with us the types of events or competitions you have held? Let's go a little deep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done from at the JAIC rapid prototyping events, but also in other organizations, capture the flags events and hackathons, working with the training systems or simulators in the Air Force. Capture the flags to build, understand the resiliency of a lot of our systems. Think about basically weapon systems, trying to identify vulnerabilities within it. Most of them have been done by the Blue Force, but also hackathons using or involved with the other organizations outside the DoD, cities working on smart grid technologies, coming up with better, faster solutions to problems that are known in those areas. Within the JAIC tour that I've been able to gratefully had the opportunity to work with. We've done some efforts with specific organizations that I really can't mention here, but we've been very successful at working in a very accelerated fashion to find solutions to those specific problems that they encounter on a day-to-day basis, and that have become a huge hurdle to accomplish or maintaining a good cyber defense posture. So, and I gotta say, that's been from both a just software engineering perspective and also a data science perspective, mostly on the software engineering side of things.
Hey guys, Louis, can you still hear me right now? That fire alarm that we were worried about is going off.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to throw it to you, and we might mute me here for a second. This is fun. What are some of the processes? What are some of the challenges hosting events like this for cybersecurity specifically, as it pertains to data and real-world scenarios?
From our perspective, it really has been getting access to data that's relevant to come up with good solutions. What you will find is a lot of the data that we use or that we conduct analysis on, it's kept very tightly, many cases even classified at certain levels. So I think that's becoming a big challenge. If we want to come up with robust solutions that can easily transition into operations with our systems, we need to find ways to get data over to events, for example, like this one, right? Like you guys should be able to get or bring data to events like this. The participants, whatever they build, can be easily adapted to something that's applicable in operations. And that makes most sense when we're talking about AI machine learning, because when you're talking about the tuning of models, such as, again, I'm going to go back to this malware classifier that participants are working with right now. The distributions, the biases of the data are going to be key into how properly tune that. And there's different approaches to getting that data. There's known approaches in academia and literature, and a lot of DoD organizations have actually have some good advancements in this for generating data or anonymizing operational data. There's also for generating simulated data based on the same distributions of what you find on a short period of time within your sensors, for then conducting this type of classification events and hopefully providing either automation features or enhanced defensive capabilities.
All right, we still have that lovely pesky fire alarm in the background. I hope you can still hear me just fine, but what are some of the processes that can be implemented to improve the ease and efficiency of harvesting these technologies or analytics and capabilities from events like this?
I think sharing with the community of participants in events like this, the type of standards that we use, the formats and developing kits that we use to deploy the capabilities, right? So how do we tell the world about, hey, or if you were to build something for us, something that we can use in an event like this is what it looks like, without disclosing, of course, certain details about it. But data standards that are common across the board, data, I will say, platforms and architectures for distribution. One of the good examples here that I really like about how you guys are doing in this event is that one of the submission requirements is like you have to submit a Docker container. How do we improve shipping of capabilities across the board, not just for the Office of Naval Research, but also that could easily be adopted across the board. And there's some good mechanisms for securing, hardening, sticking these capabilities in a more automated fashion. But ultimately what that does is that helps kind of take the barriers across the services and the agencies down so that we can all basically take advantage of the capabilities that have been built. So more of a build once, deploy many approach. And if you think about it, the challenges that we're facing are not just specific to any organization. It's not just specific to the Navy or the Air Force, the Marine Corps, Army. A lot of the challenges that we're talking, especially in cyber operations, are common across the board. So a lot of these solutions can be applied in all different components, and using these specific approaches, containers, common standards, and architectures are going to get us there much quicker.
An emergency has been reported in this building.
I'm going to throw another question at you since we still have this lovely voice going on here. Not only have you arranged these competitions, but I also know that you participate in them. Do you mind telling the audience what it's like to be on the other side of the aisle and actually be a participant instead of an organizer?
It is a lot of fun, let me tell you. Full disclosure, I'm actually a participant on this event, and I've had an opportunity to work with an excellent team, and we've been having a lot of fun. I'm very passionate about this type of work, and I believe it's also an opportunity to grow and learn from different perspectives, because we're so constrained to the timelines, to the specifications of the submissions, that we have to think outside the box. And that's where you see that every little piece of experience or expertise that all the members in the team bring make things go much faster. And I mean, it's like truly drinking from a fire hose. I've learned a lot from individuals, and this one I would say has been a little different because it's one of the first ones I do in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So learning curve has been much steeper, but I can tell you the amount of Red Bull and caffeine I've consumed in this one has been considerably lower. I've done some other ones with for example, in the city of Tampa, working for the mayor, building applications to accelerate or bring basically nicer features to the town or the city. IEEE competitions, I've done multiple of the IEEE extreme competitions. Those are 24-hour competitions with participants from all over the globe. And the challenges are, it's called extreme for a reason. So think more about algorithm optimization and that kind of problem. So, and those have been very, very fun, I will say. I enjoy doing this.
All right, well, you can still hear it, I'm sure, just fine. So earlier when you were talking about cyber competitions, you talked about capture the flag. We're doing a bug hunting for challenge 1. Can you run the audience through the various types of cyber data challenges that exist?
For capture the flags or just across cyber in general?
In general, if someone's thinking about having a cyber data challenge, the different flavors you've seen.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is definitely the variance of the files that you get from all these sensors you can implement. And if you think about, for example, gigabytes, terabytes of data that are captured in such amount of time, getting those all compressed into a common standard, and the compute requirements to get those to that common standard often take a toll on operations in general. I think that DoD has been trying to get to a common schema, common standard for a couple of years now. We've been supporting a lot of activities in that spectrum, and we think that's key in order to accelerate the use of these capabilities, right? Reduce compute power and then help us get to inferencing closer to the sensors, more also known as edge deployments. And I think that's going to be key to successful cyber operations, where we can rely on capabilities that provide inference closer to where the data is created, and thus be able to remediate, being able to detect or mitigate a lot of the findings much quicker than we do now. Most of the work that we're doing today, because of the lack of those capabilities, is mostly forensic in nature, post hoc. So we're trying to make things more so that we can take a proactive posture to cyber defenses.
All right. Well, one of these days this alarm will go off so we can actually have a really great dialogue here.
You sure it's not an actual fire?
No, there isn't an actual fire here. This is par for the course with Hack the Machine. You never know when we're going to get hacked or what's going to happen on live TV here. So when we talk about cyber challenges, they can be actual hacking of machines. They can also be data science AI challenges like the one that we've got going on this week. Can you reflect on, and you may have done this a little bit in your dialogue before, but can we talk about the importance, the different types of analytic techniques that you see being applied in the cyber domain and how you see those come through in these competitions?
Yeah, so interesting enough, that one of the biggest challenges, going back to the previous question, I think I missed in this portion, is that for us to get to, I will say, better analytics, more precise, accurate analytics, we need we need large amounts of data, and we need a lot of label data. And one of the challenges with those, getting those type of analytics, is that to get to them, we need to label a lot of data. It's not as easy. Cyber data is not as sexy or as pretty or easy to label than it is, approaches such as what Mechanical Turk does, right? Like you pay people to tell you whether something in a picture, it's a bird, it's a dog, it's a cat. in cyber is not the same thing. And that's one of the main challenges that we suffer in order to create this massive data sets that can be organizational specific, that take into account a lot of the security policies that you have implemented in your environment, because the policies that organization A has for cybersecurity might be a little bit different than organization B has. So what could be a malicious event or a potential incident in one organization might not be an incident in another organization. So those things need to be appropriately labeled. And current approaches rely heavily on hand labeling, basically looking at previous incidents and using that and whatever data was captured about that specific incident to tag the data set and provide a label. Or we've done, for example, similar to capture the flags events, where we compare then the sensor data from our defensive sensors to the tools that are used by the pen testers. So things such as Cold Strike, we can then compare that with what's captured and build kind of a pseudo label data set. However, those things don't scale. They're very expensive, and we don't have enough manpower available to go and capture the flags every 3 months, right? Because we know capabilities like this go stale over time. You can't expect a model to perform for long periods of time. So this has to be sustainable. So I think that's going to be the next step for capabilities and model development such as this one, right? Come up with approaches where we can automate that aspect or find quicker options for generating data sets that we can use then for for training and updating our models at the speed of information, right? Models, we can use MLOps practices to get to that point, and that's, I think, in my opinion, the next big step for analytic development.
All right. Well, we have cyber data challenges. We also have Guinness World Records for the longest fire alarm in the history of the world today. I was going to save this question for you last, and you're the most amazing panelist by helping carry us right now. But for those government leaders that are watching this panel, thinking about holding an event or a challenge, do you have any words of advice besides checking the fire alarm schedule? Or what's the one thing that's unexpected that surprised you the most? It's not lost on me, the irony of that question right now.
I think will be flexibility, that things are going to happen, that things are going to break. And that you need to adapt with it, and at the end of the day, to enjoy and to go through the process and have fun. I wouldn't say that, hey, this is something that you basically there's going to be a challenging, I will say, or a tedious organization process, but it's not something that should take away from the fun of it and ultimately the goal of the event, right? Which is to get capabilities that can help accelerate what we do today, solve very challenging problems. And I think there's always good positive outputs on events like this because there's so many lessons learned. And I'm sure your team and during the assessment process with all the submissions, there's going to be some debriefing opportunities where there's going to be a lot of knowledge capture that can then be applied or replicated for other types of events and activities, including additional future hackathons like this one, or actually drive development practices and processes, which are going to be instrumental to how we maintain, operations.
All right, and the fire alarm continues. Well, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the rest of this panel. Louis, how bad is it on your side? Just give me a sound check. Can you hear me? And can you hear Mike if he were to talk?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Oh, wow, look at that. It is a Christmas miracle coming early. All right, Mike, it's your turn.
Let's do this.
All right, thank you, Louis, for helping us out get through that lovely fire alarm. So, okay, Mike, it's time to anchor on you, and the pun is definitely intended.
Love it.
You've successfully executed 3 challenges for NavWar. Just earlier today, you used Hack the Machine to announce the 3rd prize challenge winner. Can you start by telling our guests what a prize challenge is, specifically around challenge.gov, and how that brings benefits to both the Navy and the challenge participants?
Okay, yeah, for sure, Joe. So the way you really should think about a challenge through the challenge.gov format is it's another tool in our acquisition toolkit. So I work in an acquisition command where we're responsible for acquiring, integrating, fielding, and sustaining capabilities to the fleet for cyber tools. So Really, the way we look at this is the challenges evaluate innovative solutions to difficult problems, and then whichever solution is best gets awarded a cash prize out of that. These are used throughout the U.S. government and really have led overall to solutions for some of our nation's toughest problems. So as far as the benefits perspective, there's really two sides to it. There's the government's perspective and then the participants' perspective. So from the government side, I look at it as it allows us to cast a wider net and obtain participation from industry, academia, non-traditional participants. While I've done extensive research of industry and have a really good understanding of the cyber landscape out there, I'm not aware of every single cyber company because it seems like every day 5 more pop up. And so by putting these challenges out there, it really allows them to see what we're trying to solve and come to us instead of us having to go try to find them. The second, I would say for us from the government side, is it gives exposure for the command and the Navy as a whole. So it lets some of those non-traditional participants know who we are, the problems we're trying to solve, and how we need their help. And then the third is probably the most important part of it for us is the results count as market research for us. So it really allows us to expedite the time that it takes to get through those acquisition kind of life cycle typical timelines that are there and get the tools that are needed to the warfighter at the most rapid pace possible. And that's really what excites me the most about them. From the participant side, obviously getting a cash prize up to $1 million is great. I think anybody would love that. I really think though for them it's the bragging rights, being able to say, hey, I won this challenge that's focused on this topic. For anybody that's in a company sense, right, those things end up in their company marketing slides like the next day, and they're out there beating the pavement and telling everybody, hey, look what we've done, right? So those bragging rights are really valuable for them. And then there's also the potential for a follow-on contract, right? So there's no guarantees in that, but that potential does exist. And this is really one of those pathways, as Rachel mentioned earlier, to help them get in the door.
Yeah, that's excellent. And Louis, feel free to jump in, especially as we get to a couple more of these questions, although you've done an amazing job already. So Mike, can you help set expectations around the results? I mean, what happens when a winner's been declared? Do we really pick these solutions up and just drop them in the Navy?
Yeah, so there's really kind of 2 steps to this, right? So the first step is we formally announce the winner, like we did earlier today with Splunk for winning our SOAR challenge, right? And then obviously issue the payment to them. And then the second step is to really debrief all the participants. And I think this is a very valuable point here because it allows us to not only tell them their strengths, but their weaknesses. And a lot of times what we find is they'll bring in their developers or their product teams, and they come in and they sit with us and they listen to the things that we found because our experiments are so extensive. And it really helps them to go and improve those tool sets, which ultimately I think leads to better tools for the rest of us as a nation to protect us.
Great. And Louis, if I can throw it to you for a quick second, how about expectations around the results? Have you ever lifted a complete solution, or do you get pieces of it? How does it help you with the journey?
I think it depends. We've seen solutions that, for example, meet 100% of the requirements that they'll be the challenge winners. And then you'll also find that some submissions are worthy of follow-up, like the approaches. Some people take a newer, innovative approach to creating a solution that might not meet all the threshold requirements. But it's just a sense of, it gives you a sense of like, hey, you're onto something. So in certain challenges, or for example, depending on the acquisition approach you use, you really can't go tap into that, right? Because you can't get into some conflict. But in events like this one, you can always get ideas and have that two-sided feedback as to why you took that approach and how is that affecting the project or your solution in a good positive way. And again, that can drive, like I mentioned earlier, practices for development in the future, approaches for new meaningful ways of deploying or developing capabilities. And I think having at least an open mind to welcome those type of innovative solutions that might not follow the status quo, I think it's going to be key in events like this, because you bring a series of perspectives from everywhere. And you're going to see people that are going to take approaches and use libraries and use frameworks that you probably haven't heard of. And sometimes we tend to go and say, hey, why are you using this, or why are you not using this other common library? And let's listen to those ideas as well. Let's find out they might be onto something. They might know something that we don't know. It's a huge field. There's libraries, packages, tools, software, services created on a day-to-day basis. There's no way we can all keep up with them. So again, this is also a broadening experience for both the participants and the ones of us on the other side of the fence, looking at these solutions.
Yeah, thank you. And just as a reminder for the audience out there, we've reserved about the last 10 to 15 minutes of this panel for live Q&A. So please get those questions in Slido. We'd love to have you ask our experts some tough ones. Mike, can you talk about what are some of the hurdles you've encountered when trying to evaluate cybersecurity tools in your prize challenges?
Yeah, most definitely. So I think first for us was having a facility or a research range where we could go ahead and evaluate these. I mean, we're using advanced malware, some 0 days, things like that we've gone through, advanced red team attacks, and having a facility where we could do that was really the first key step. So we really set out to build out that research range as kind of the groundwork for all of this. And then second, breaking them down by the challenges we've done. So to date, we've done endpoint detection response, network detection response, and SOAR. So from the EDR, the endpoint detection response side of it, I think having a large enough sample size to where we could effectively evaluate these tools was our first challenge. Most of the time we would go out, we would sit with industry and ask them, hey, what is your F1 score, right? Like how well do you do at detecting malware? And they all claim, oh, we do 99.999% detection rate, right? And then you start to peel that onion back and you look in and you see, okay, well, that's on maybe 500 or 1,000 samples of this one file type that you detect, right? And so we really went through and did quite a bit of extensive gathering of malware and benignware samples and built out this corpus of about 34 million samples of like every file type you could imagine out there. Developed some of our own 0 days for it and then ran that through, and that really showed us the actual results of these tool sets, not just on these limited subsets that they've done. On the network detection side, we had to emulate advanced threats, so we hired a super advanced red team to come in. These guys are great. They came in and executed varying levels, emulating APT activity, et cetera, and that really showed us from that side of it how well those network tools did at performing that. And then on the SOAR, for the SOC automation piece of it, really we looked at this of how are we going to get analyst feedback from Navy operators. So I reached out to over 50 analysts throughout the fleet all over the globe, and we were able to get participation from all of them to really come in and look at those tools and evaluate them head to head and give us, not only just quantitative but qualitative results that really helped us to determine, like we did earlier today, that Splunk was the winner for that challenge.
That's great. So Mike, you've conducted extensive market research of cyber AI tools over the past several years. In your opinion, where is industry applying AI within their cybersecurity tool offerings?
Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, we've done EDR, NDR, and SOAR. I think the other two areas we've seen that are really ripe for this are UEBA, which is User Entity Behavioral Analytics, really helping you to understand patterns in user behavior on your network, just gathers a bunch of telemetry data, pulls that in, and then looks at how do they compare with the way that they've actually, with their peer groups, right, with other people that maybe are in similar functions as them or their patterns from previous history. Yeah. And then the other side of it, I would say, is cyber deception systems. So using decoys, right, to really try to either gather insider or outsider threats, right, and be able to know where the attackers are in your network. Those are really the two key areas I've seen.
I mean, I love it when you guys are talking about this. I feel like a 5-year-old again. We're talking about hide and seek, capture the flag. Takes me back to the good old days. You guys are pretty quiet on Slido there. I've got one last question for Mike, which Louie's already answered. So get those questions in for the panel. But Mike, for those government leaders watching this panel, thinking that they want to hold an event or a challenge, what words of advice do you have? And then what's the one thing that was most unexpected or surprised you, and fire alarms don't count again?
So I would say the advice and the expectation, the most surprise go together. So clearly define your problem up front. If you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of questions as you go through this, which will drag out the timeline. So the better you define your problem and the expectation of what you want in your submission package, the better off you'll be when you get to that actual phase where you receive those submissions and can move forward with your evaluation phase. Plan ahead as much as possible. I don't think you can have enough time in your schedule for these because things unexpectedly come up. Trying to install and configure some of these tool sets can present a challenge in itself. So just allow yourself enough time in your schedule that you're able to meet your expectation. And really the other one I would say is to consult with the challenge.gov team day one. They are phenomenal. They're experts in this. They do this day in and day out. And they will really help you to get through these challenges and be successful at the end of the day.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, guys, I'm not getting any questions from the audience. So, Louis, any final words of advice or any last thoughts we haven't hit on this panel you want to share with the audience? Mike, same questions coming to you.
Sorry, I got a little late there. No, I think what Mike said was pretty, straight on point. Don't think I have anything else to add.
All right, Mike?
No, likewise. I think we're good.
All right.
Get out of here before another fire alarm goes off. So.
I know. All right. Well, first off, Louis, Mike, I can't thank you enough for having this eventful conversation with us today. Hackathons, challenge events are a brilliant way for the government to really get out there and find new solutions. It gives your organization a chance to brand itself as innovative and show that you're thinking about new ways of attacking problems and working with industry. It's a great recruiting event. We've got a captive audience of 100+ data scientists right now looking at a DoD problem, and we hope that they're going to come join the workforce because we need them here. We heard Mike talk about it's great for solutioning. We know that the DoD 5000 series asks for AOA's alternatives of analysis. This is part of your market research that helps you move down that area. And most importantly, it's all about new ideas. And so with that, we thank the audience for putting up with the fire alarm. And we're going to call the panel. Please tune in at the top of the hour for the next panel. And thank you, Hack the Machine.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.